Good evening. Welcome to Loveworld USA News. I'm Joel Richard. First, a quick look at the top stories this evening. UN nuclear chief says Iran has bomb material, but no evidence of active weapon program. Man charged in alleged explosive plot targeting police during LA riots. Vice President Vance visits Los Angeles amid anti-ICE unrest. Supreme Court nears term end with major rulings pending, including birthright citizenship case. FHFA director calls for Fed Chair Powell to resign over interest rate policy. And now to the news. The head of the International Atomic Energy Agency has confirmed that Iran possesses enough enriched material to create several nuclear warheads, but emphasized that there is no current evidence of an active nuclear weapons program. Rafael Grossi, Director General of the IAEA, stated that while the material exists, there is no tangible proof of a plan to manufacture nuclear arms. Grossi's remarks come amid ongoing Israeli military operations targeting Iran's nuclear infrastructure, which began earlier this month following a censure of Iran by the IAEA. While Israel's strikes caused damage, Grossi noted that they have not fully dismantled Iran's nuclear capabilities. He also pointed to the challenge of erasing technical knowledge acquired over decades. The IAEA has been unable to conduct direct inspections due to the conflict, but continues surveillance using satellite imagery. Grossi warned that military action alone would not eliminate the threat posed by Iran's nuclear expertise. He reiterated the need for a diplomatic resolution to ensure Iran does not develop a nuclear weapon. Grossi said talks are ongoing with the United States and Iranian officials and encouraged seizing the opportunity for negotiation. He emphasized that international inspectors have the capability to monitor and verify compliance if a diplomatic path is chosen. Watch this.
In terms of the material, I have said in my reports, we have confirmed that Iran does have, even now, enough material for several warheads. But this should not be equated with a nuclear weapon. We do not have, at this point, if you ask me, at this point, any tangible proof that there is a program or a plan to fabricate, to manufacture a nuclear weapon. There are different scattered activities here and there is the material. I'm a diplomat, and I believe that there is a way to take this danger or this concern out of the table in a negotiated way with a very robust, as I said, I've been in conversations, very good conversations with Steve Witkoff and with the Iranians as well. I believe that there are ways in which we can make sure that Iran does not get a nuclear weapon. I think this is ultimately what Israel wants and what the United States has declared, even what President Putin said the other day after a very important conversation with President Donald Trump. I think internationally there is a consensus that Iran should not be nuclearly armed, and that this is something that should be avoided. My impression, we are the international core of inspectors, and we know what you would need to check in order to prevent this from happening. So let's see what's happening, and we believe that the opportunity should be seized, as President Trump said, but of course the space for that is narrowing. The IEA will be able to support if we have the opportunity to do so, of course.
Federal authorities have arrested a New Mexico man accused of plotting to use explosives against law enforcement during recent anti-ICE riots in Los Angeles. 48-year-old Grzegorz Vandenberg was charged with transporting explosives across state lines with the intent to injure or intimidate, according to the Department of Justice. Authorities allege that Vandenberg attempted to purchase large fireworks and mortar shells at a New Mexico travel center, where he reportedly expressed plans to harm officers and government officials in Los Angeles. A store employee alerted authorities after Vandenberg allegedly claimed he could make pipe bombs and invited the staff to join him at the protests. Federal prosecutors said Vandenberg ultimately purchased 6 mortars and 36 large fireworks. FBI Director Kash Patel credited the store employee's quick reporting for helping prevent the alleged attack. Vandenberg is in custody and faces up to 10 years in prison if convicted. Attorney General Pam Bondi stated that the Justice Department would continue pursuing federal charges against anyone seeking to harm law enforcement. U.S. Attorney Ryan Ellison reinforced the position, saying, "Targeting law enforcement with violence is not protest. It's a crime." Let's take a look.
The U.S. Attorney for New Mexico says 48-year-old Zagash Vandenberg bought 6 mortars and 36 large fireworks from a travel center in Lordsburg last Thursday before heading west on I-10. According to court documents, store staff reported Vandenberg told them he wanted to use the explosives during the Los Angeles protests to kill police, and he invited the staff to join his platoon in California. If convicted, Vandenberg faces up to 10 years in prison.
In other news, Vice President J.D. Vance arrived in Los Angeles on Friday to assess the ongoing response to anti-ICE riots that have erupted in the city. Vance toured a federal Joint Operations Center and a mobile command center where he met with federal law enforcement leaders and U.S. Marines. The visit comes as unrest continues in response to the Trump administration's immigration enforcement policies. President Donald Trump previously deployed the National Guard and federal troops to support local law enforcement. The move was challenged by California Governor Gavin Newsom, but upheld by the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. The court ruled Thursday that the president retains the authority to direct the National Guard in situations where public safety is threatened. This marks the first time since 1965 that federal authority over the National Guard has been exercised without a state governor's approval. Now, during his visit, Vance is expected to deliver remarks on law enforcement coordination and reiterate the administration's position that federal immigration laws must be enforced. The federal government continues to investigate sources of funding linked to violent demonstrations. The news will be back after this break.
Not only to celebrate our victories and all the amazing things that the Lord's done.
Welcome back. The U.S. Supreme Court is entering the final weeks of its term with 10 argued cases still pending, including a challenge to President Trump's executive order on birthright citizenship for children born to illegal immigrants. The order, currently blocked by lower courts, could reshape long-standing interpretations of the 14th Amendment. The justices are also considering whether to limit the power of federal judges to issue nationwide injunctions. During oral arguments, the court expressed concern about denying citizenship to children while signaling interest in curbing the broad scope of such judicial orders. Other high-profile cases include a Louisiana redistricting dispute involving racial gerrymandering, a religious freedom case from Maryland over LGBTQ-themed storybooks in public schools, and a Texas law requiring age verification to access online pornography. All raise questions about constitutional rights and the balance of state and federal authority. The court typically aims to conclude its term by the end of June. It has already ruled this week to uphold a Tennessee law restricting certain medical procedures for transgender minors. Federal Housing Finance Agency Director William Polte has publicly called for Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell to resign, citing ongoing high interest rates that he argues are hurting American homeowners and the broader economy. Polte, appointed under President Donald Trump, criticized Powell in a series of public posts, stating that keeping rates elevated has worsened the housing supply crisis and restricted affordability for potential homebuyers. Now, President Trump echoed the sentiment, labeling Powell the worst and accusing him of damaging the U.S. economy by not cutting rates despite declining inflation. The Federal Reserve announced on Wednesday that it would maintain the federal funds rate between 4.25% and 4.5%, marking the 4th consecutive meeting without a rate change. Trump and Polte contend that this decision ignores improving economic conditions and limits mortgage accessibility. Meanwhile, economics Peter Schiff offered a contrasting view, arguing that interest rates remain too low, given continued borrowing levels and a low national savings rate. Schiff contends the current rates have not adequately curbed inflationary pressures or promoted financial stability. Let's take a look.
Trump writes this: "We should be 2.5 points lower and save billions on all of Biden's short-term debt. We have low inflation." Federal Housing FHFA Director Bill Pulte is taking it one step further. He is calling on Powell to resign.
OpenAI CEO Sam Altman has accused Meta of aggressively trying to recruit his company's top talent by offering bonuses reportedly reaching $100 million. Altman made the claim during a podcast episode aired Tuesday, stating that Meta sees OpenAI as its biggest competitor in the race to develop artificial general intelligence. According to Altman, Meta has made what he described as giant offers to OpenAI employees, including nine-figure signing bonuses and annual compensation surpassing that. However, he noted that none of OpenAI's key team members have accepted his offers so far. The report comes amid a global talent war in artificial intelligence, with companies investing heavily in top researchers. Meta, led by CEO Mark Zuckerberg, has announced a $65 billion investment in AI this year and is building a superintelligence team expected to include about 50 engineers. Meta has not publicly responded to Altman's claims. The company's AI ambitions include developing models that rival or surpass human cognitive capabilities, supported by large-scale infrastructure projects like data centers and nuclear energy deals. Watch this.
OpenAI CEO Sam Altman revealed that Meta has been actively poaching OpenAI employees but did not succeed in attracting its top talent. Now, this hiring spree comes at a time when Meta, the parent company of Facebook, is racing to build its superintelligence unit to catch up with AI leaders like OpenAI, Google, and China's DeepSeek. Now, during the podcast, Sam Altman also said that Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg is personally involved in forming the new superintelligence group, which is specifically targeting leading AI researchers across the industry. Now, the superintelligence team is tasked with building models that can eventually surpass human-level capabilities. Altman made these remarks just days after Meta announced a $14.3 billion investment in data labeling startup Scale AI and appointed its CEO, Alexander Wang, to lead the new team. Now, once seen as a frontrunner in open source AI, Meta has recently faced staff departures and delays in launching new open source models capable of competing with its global rivals.
The news continues after this break. Stay with us.
The life of a soldier is not just a job, it's a calling and a sacred tradition passed down from father to son, brother to sister, and one generation to the next. At every hour of danger, our noblest citizens have answered that call. Time and again, our enemies have learned that if you dare to threaten the American people, American soldier will chase you down, crush you, and cast you into oblivion. The last sound you ever hear will be the dueling howl of Black Hawks, thunderous boom of artillery fire, or the ferocious roar of a U.S. Army infantry brigade. For our adversaries, there's no greater fear than the United States Army. Now it's your duty to shield the flame of freedom that was first lit 250 years ago by the heroes of Concord Bridge and Bunker Hill. Standing before you today, I am more confident than ever that in the days ahead and every generation to come, the U.S. Army will heap glory upon glory. You will protect every inch of U.S.
Welcome back. British lawmakers voted 314 to 291 on Friday to advance a bill that will legalize assisted dying for terminally ill adults in England and Wales. The vote brings the proposal one step closer to becoming law after a closely watched debate in Parliament. The Terminally Ill Adults End-of-Life Bill would allow adults over 18, diagnosed with less than 6 months to live, to request assisted death. The updated version removes a prior requirement for judicial approval, instead mandating sign-off from 2 doctors and a review panel comprising a legal expert, social worker, and psychiatrist. This bill excludes Northern Ireland and Scotland, where separate legislation is under consideration. It also includes provisions for disability advocacy and ensures no medical or care personnel are obligated to participate. Opponents have warned the bill could pressure vulnerable populations, while supporters argue it provides a humane option for those facing terminal diagnosis. Lawmakers on both sides expressed support for improving palliative and hospice care. The bill now heads to the House of Lords, which can delay or amend it but not block it entirely. Now, if enacted, implementation is projected to begin in 2029. Let's take a look.
The ayes to the right, 314. The noes to the left, 291.
The ayes to the right, 314. The noes to the left, 291. The ayes have it, the ayes have it. And look!
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's an honour and a privilege to open the debates for the third reading of the Terminally Ill Adults End-of-Life Bill. We know that there are different views within the public, and we have to take on board the concerns of vulnerable groups, and that's why the safeguards are so important. But I would also say that there is no one more vulnerable than someone who is dying.
If this bill is passed in its current form, people will lose their lives who do not need to, and they will be amongst the most vulnerable and marginalised in our society.
We should listen.
Right here.
We should listen. And if the people who are going to make this work and work as well as we hope it will if it becomes legislation, say that they are not confident that they can make it happen, we should be very, very careful about demanding that they prioritise this. And that's what this legislation says.
I urge you to support this bill beyond this principle. And I will do so because the status quo is completely unacceptable and it must be reformed.
Zambia's former President Edgar Lungu will be buried in South Africa following a disagreement between his family and the government over federal arrangements. Lungu's family confirmed plans for a private burial in Johannesburg, citing a breakdown in talks with authorities. The government had planned a state funeral in Lusaka, but Lungu's relatives declined to repatriate his remains, prompting President Hakainde Hichilema to end the national mourning period prematurely. The former leader's will reportedly requests that President Hichilema not attend his funeral. While both parties initially agreed on a state burial, tensions escalated over final agreement. Family spokesperson Mekebi Zulu thanked South Africa for respecting their wishes, stating that the decision would allow Lungu to be buried in dignity and peace. Lungu, Zambia's sixth president, served from 2015 to 2021. The former president died earlier this month while undergoing medical treatment in South Africa. Just before we end the news, a quick look at tomorrow's weather forecast. And to end the news for today, a quick recap of the headlines. UN nuclear chief says Iran has bomb material, but no evidence of active weapon program. Man charged in alleged explosive plot targeting police during LA riots. Vice President Vance visits Los Angeles amid anti-ICE unrest. Supreme Court nears term end with major rulings pending, including birthright citizenship case. FHFA director calls for Fed Chair Powell to resign over interest rate policy. And that's the news for today. Join us at the same time tomorrow for more news. I'm Joel Richard. Good night, and God bless you.